So today, we're going to dive into something pretty deep, drawing from the work of Kaia Solene. We're asking this: how does our whole relationship with life change when we're suddenly forced to face our own mortality and realize our time might not be as endless as we thought? And that brings us to the core question right here. Are you living your real life or just an idea of it? It really forces you to pause and think about whether the life you're so busy planning is the one you're actually experiencing. And to get to the bottom of that, we have to start with this hidden belief that, well, it pretty much runs everything we do. So let's kick things off with this concept called the illusion of infinite time. It's this quiet, sneaky assumption that secretly shapes all our plans, our ambitions, and maybe even who we think we are. I mean, think about it, right? Most of us just go about our days as if the future is this huge, wide open space with endless potential. We're always telling ourselves, oh, I'll get to that someday, or I'll become that kind of person eventually. We build our whole sense of self around who we think we're going to be, and we end up pushing off real living for a future that we just assume is guaranteed. So we're building our entire lives on that assumption, on that guarantee. But what happens when that guarantee is suddenly gone? This brings us to our next point: what it actually feels like when your vision of the future just collapses. And here, the author of our source material, Kaia Solene, shares this really personal, powerful moment. A routine checkup reveals a silent killer, and just like that, that vast open future just shrinks. The abstract idea of mortality suddenly becomes a very real statistical fact. It's one of those moments where life just grabs you and forces a total change in perspective. And this chart, wow, it just perfectly captures that shift. On the left, you've got how most of us live, a future-based identity. Our worth is all tied up in hitting future goals, and our sense of security comes from having a plan. But when that future gets shaky, your attention just snaps back to the present. You're forced into the mindset on the right, a present-based awareness, where value is found in the simple, direct experience of being, and security comes from just accepting what is, right here and right now. So this new focus on the present moment naturally leads to an even deeper question. If we're not just our future plans, then who are we, really? And that brings up this fascinating idea about the story we tell ourselves about our lives, and whether we're actually living that story or just thinking about it. The source material calls this the narrative self. You know what this is. It's that constant movie playing in our heads, the story of me, right? It's got a whole backstory, character arcs, a plot, all aimed at some desired outcome. It's an incredibly convincing story, but it's important to remember it's a story that's built completely out of our own thoughts. And the takeaway here is, well, it's huge. We can get so obsessed with directing and editing this movie in our head that we completely forget to actually live. We start judging the present moment not on its own terms, but based on how well it fits into our plot. We can literally miss the feeling of the sun on our skin because we're too busy telling ourselves the story of what it means. Which really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Is that main character in your head, that you, really a solid, stable thing? Or is it more like a flickering image, just a constantly shifting collection of thoughts, feelings, and memories that we've bundled up and slapped a label on? Me. Exploring that question leads us right up against some fundamental truths about being alive. And the source material frames these not as sad limitations, but as unmovable boundaries. Think of them as the basic rules of the game of life. And there are three big ones. First, the body. It's finite. It will end. That is a non-negotiable fact. Second, the mind. No matter how much we strategize or plan, our minds can never get permanent control over life or stop things from constantly changing. And third, the self. That story, that identity we hold onto so tightly, it's also temporary. It's a construction, not some solid, permanent thing. And here's the crucial part. These aren't problems you can solve or obstacles you can overcome. They are the absolute, unmovable walls of the container we call a human life. You can't hack them, you can't get around them, you can't wish them away. They simply have to be accepted. And this is where everything flips. Because you'd think that staring these unmovable truths in the face would be depressing, right? But what we find is the exact opposite. It actually leads to this profound, totally unexpected sense of freedom. You see, when you finally give up fighting a battle you can never win, the fight against death, against change, against the fluid nature of who you are, something amazing happens. That constant tension, that pressure to manage every little detail and lock down the future, it just starts to soften. There is this deep, deep sense of relaxation that comes with surrender.
The author gives this a name: living embodied presence. It's this shift where you stop using the present moment as just a stepping stone to get somewhere better later. You realize the present moment is the destination. It's the simple, direct, vivid experience of just being alive, right here, right now.
All of this brings us to the ultimate point of this entire exploration. It's a simple truth, but it is incredibly powerful. We cannot control the length of life, but we can experience the depth of it. The moment we let go of that illusion of infinite time and total control, we gain access to the infinite richness of the moment we're actually in. We trade a fantasy of quantity for the reality of quality. And so, we're going to leave you by turning this whole thing back to you with the most powerful question from the source material. What if the great limitation, that unmovable boundary in your life, isn't some event far off in the future, but something that's already here, a condition you just haven't discovered yet? How would you live differently starting today?